Muga was Tatsumi Fujinami and Osamu Nishimura's pet project to rekindle the 70s style of technical pro wrestling they loved so dearly. Nishimura had brief stints training at the legendary Billy Riley Gym during his journey around the European Indies in 1995, after refusing to return to New Japan when they recalled him from Florida in November 1994. Originally a very sporadic series of events promoted by Fujinami, Muga partnered with Riley's Gym for their first show on October 27, 1995. Fujinami was obviously their biggest name, and was still a very relevant top-of-the-card wrestler throughout the 1990s, when Muga was just his labor of love, with his fifth and final IWGP Heavyweight Championship run in 1998. His top pupil, Nishimura, was the modern flag bearer for the Muga style. Wrestling was changing fast, and with each passing year, Nishimura had more trouble finding opponents in Japan who weren't just about doing their same old flashy stuff. Nishimura was better suited to taking on European wrestlers, except the last remnants of their 70s technical style was dying out by the 2000s as well. Fujinami ran a wrestling school, and had been a proponent of the stable system going back to his short-lived Dragon Bombers unit in 1990 that featured Jushin Thunder Liger, Shiro Koshinaka, Takayuki Iizuka, and Black Cat among others, but he was always too busy with his New Japan work to do much with Muga. When Fujinami declared his retirement countdown sometime after losing to Nishimura on New Japan's January 4, 2003 Tokyo Dome show, and didn't wrestle again for more than 2 years due to gallstone surgery and being busy with front office work for New Japan, it looked like Muga would be an almost forgotten footnote in their biography. However, with Fujinami rescinding his retirement countdown in 2005, and Nishimura leaving New Japan in January 2006 because he wasn't happy with the direction the company was going in, there was an increasing desire to run a promotion that featured the style of wrestling they actually wanted to be doing. Fujinami finally left New Japan in mid-2006, after a presidency and vice chairman run filled with indecision and turmoil. On August 2, 2006, Nishimura and former New Japan ring announcer Hidekazu Tanaka promoted a memorial show for Black Cat, who had passed away on January 28th. Fujinami and several wrestlers whose contract New Japan didn't renew that year, such as Hiro Saito, Mitsuyu Nagai, and Fujinami's student Katsushi Takamura, were some of the key talent involved. Nishimura trademarked the name Muga World Pro Wrestling, and with Fujinami working in their front office, Muga quickly became an active touring promotion. Nishimura's style doesn't work nearly as well when he's stuck blending it with the more cooperative stuff his opponents wanted to be doing by the 2000s. He was excited and motivated to have an opponent for the first official TV taping of the Muga promotion on September 25, 2006 at Tokyo Korakuen Hall that was on the same page with him. His mentor Fujinami wasn't going to force Nishimura into another one of the half-assed mixtures of styles he had so often been stuck doing elsewhere. What made this 2 out of 3 falls match so charming is it was so far out of date that it actually felt fresh again, because pretty much no one else was doing anything like this in 2006. This was serious wrestling that was properly done with nuance and attention to detail. It's a less rigorous style that Fujinami could still do at 52 years old, and it's one of his final recommendable matches, but that doesn't mean it's an easy style to make work, especially given what audiences were used to in the faster-paced, shorter attention span era they were doing it in. It's a slow style to begin with, from an era where NWA heavyweight title matches often went to hour time limits, and Fujinami wasn't exactly making it any faster at this advanced period of his great career, but they don't drag it out. On the contrary, they did it well enough that they were able to sweep you away, and thus it never felt dull. This certainly doesn't fit the modern idea of quote-unquote excitement, but it's not that empty stuff where they fill the countless gaps by doing things that take you out of the idea that it's a fight, and that anyone is actually trying to win, by having one guy lay around playing dead, while the other begs the crowd to pretend to care about him, instead of pressing his advantage over the apparent corpse. This doesn't fit into the modern definition of high spots, but less moves doesn't necessarily mean less action. If you are interested in seeing something that somewhat resides within the context of reality, where they struggle for holds, put effort into escapes, do their best to pass off the idea they are applying maximum pressure to their moves, and throw in some stuff that looks nasty because they're trying to win rather than playing at being villains, this match is for you. It's by no means a perfect match, but it's a lot better than an interesting curio, and never feels like one of those cosplay homages we always get in the 2020s. Nishimura gives a really strong performance carrying this. He does an excellent job of working on the mat, whether he's on offense or defense, with his willingness to work from underneath being one of the main factors that separates his performance from Fujinami's. Nishimura has a lot more snap and force behind everything he does offensively. He also shows a lot more conviction in selling the idea he's putting all he has into his escapes and counters. While Nishimura's performance is filled with bite and ferocity, Fujinami lacks some of the finer qualities of working the holds and positions you'd get from his better earlier stuff, and often feels too passive for the style. That's not to say he's putting zero effort into the mat work like Manami Toyota. The match still has enough movement and conviction to maintain interest, never feeling like they were laying around doing nothing useful just to kill time. Still, Fujinami's actual performance falls somewhere between knowing exactly what to do to make everything work as well as possible, and taking shortcuts and actually applying that knowledge, because at his age it's difficult to go hard for 25 minutes. It sometimes felt like Fujinami was wrenching the holds on a timer because he knew he should, rather than doing it with any fervor. This was a smart performance by Fujinami though. He stayed within himself and stuck to his knee work story. It's obviously not one of the great performances of Fujinami's youth, but in many ways, it's more admirable that he's able to find a way to still be useful and relevant 3 decades later. Right from the outset, they put their own spin on things. Doing such a brief first fall was more out of modern lucha libre than 70s technical wrestling. This fall had the aggression and urgency I want from these guys, and established the theme of the entire match. It was Fujinami's dragon screw into figure 4 versus whatever answers Nishimura could muster. Round 1 went to Nishimura, shockingly pinning his mentor in just 50 seconds when he small packaged Fujinami as he was applying the figure 4. The match you expected started with the second fall. It's mat-based and technical, well built around both working each other's knees, with Fujinami essentially taking a front to the flash pin and tripling down on trying to win with his figure 4. Even though much of the match consists of focused attacks through straightforward ancient holds, it never feels overly linear or didactic, with both being more dynamic and adaptable than you'd expect from this type of story match. The storytelling was certainly very good. There's the obvious theme stuff, but the reason the match succeeds is it subtly creates feelings that greatly enhance the viewing experience. You increasingly believe in the stakes of each movement because they've constructed a match that doesn't feel haphazard, one where the momentum can swing or a finish can happen out of nowhere. The punishment they take accumulates in a lower key manner that can actually be taken seriously because they refuse to hammer every point home in the usual corny overdone ways. The match actually feels rewarding because it's rich in small details you may not even be consciously aware of. Still, how well this match succeeds overall is directly related to how much effort they put into shaking the exhibition feel. Both could have shown a lot more urgency to escape holds and positions they weren't actually trapped in, but that's more inherent to not updating their style to what anyone has learned from MMA or submission grappling, despite both having been trained by Karl Gotch over the years. The MMA armbar isn't treated too well here, as they're still in the mode of the short arm scissors actually being a thing, and the phony figure 4 being king. While I'd like them to at least move things more towards the believability of shoot wrestling, Nishimura almost always succeeds within the even more fictional style he's decided upon. Fujinami shows moments of meanness, but there's generally too much safety in his relaxed, friendly competition performance. Nishimura tried to pick Fujinami's arm apart, including some well-targeted forearms, but could never fully capitalize on the mat. He has his moments, but is largely on the defensive during the final 2 falls. Much of his second fall offense comes through fighting off his butt Antonio Inoki versus Muhammad Ali style, trying to make Fujinami pay for his own knee work by kicking Fujinami's knee out whenever he can break free from Fujinami's clutches. Fujinami's persistence paid off though, getting the submission at 13-12 with the figure 4 when Nishimura ran out of answers. Nishimura put much more effort into his acting. His stuff looks and feels like it has some fierceness, and he just does a much better job of selling this as a rivalry match. The third fall starts out really smartly, finding a way to actually ratchet up the intensity while Fujinami essentially gets a break. Nishimura sells his injured knee on the floor, and every time he tries to get back in, Fujinami won't have it, winning another King of the Mountain duel to deny re-entry. These are Fujinami's most convincing moments, probably because this isn't one of his normal tactics, and it's kind of a dick move. One could argue the only 2 high spots they actually try in the entire match fail during this segment. A suplex off the apron is teased before Nishimura finally puts Fujinami down. Nishimura then makes the mistake of trying to re-enter with a diving knee drop, only to further injure his own knee when it backfires. Nishimura does a great job of putting over the significance of the third fall figure 4. He's finally able to turn Fujinami over, and shockingly scores perhaps the world's first figure 4 reversal submission at 10:28. Both of Nishimura's finishes are unconvincing at face value. One could argue that they work because Fujinami is broken down, and his reflexes and recovery aren't what they were in his heyday. I like the first fall finish a lot more because it served the purpose of setting up the next 2. The third fall finish was kind of a letdown, but there's something to be said for all the finishes revolving around the figure 4. These 2 were among the last masters of the 70s style they were doing, and actually delivered something in 2006 that felt like it could have happened 30 years earlier without it feeling like a shallow reenactment. It loses some points because Fujinami doesn't have the energy, and probably the desire, to put the proper amount of conviction into portraying it. However, It gained some points for being such an outlier, and for being a great answer to the frivolous throwaway stuff that fills the early portions these days until the wrestlers get going with their cooperative stuff to do. Muga lost a lot of points on October 19, 2007, when the wrestler to see, Nishimura, defected to All Japan Pro Wrestling. As Nishimura had become synonymous with Muga and owned the rights, Fujinami decided to change the promotion's name to Tradition at the start of 2008, a combination of his nickname Dragon and the league's purpose, Tradition. While I don't see this 2006 Nishimura vs Fujinami as match of the year level, I was actually invested in it, and it's certainly different enough from what else was going on in 2006 to be an interesting conversation piece. Love it or hate it, at the very least it's a match you aren't likely to be indifferent to. I'm giving it 3.75 stars out of 5. Please let us know what you think about it in the comments.